Did you know that over 36 million people worldwide have died from AIDS-related illnesses, more than all the battle deaths of World War I and II combined? From underground guitar heroes who vanished quietly to iconic frontmen who hid their pain behind the spotlight. 15 famous heavy metal stars who died of AIDS. 1. Robin Crosby. Robin Crosby was a giant in the glam metal world, literally and musically. Towering in height and personality, he lit up the stage with Rat, a band that ruled the 80s with big riffs and bigger hair. Their song, Round and Round, blasted from car radios and TV screens. Robin looked like a rock god. Flashy clothes, big guitar, non-stop energy. Fans saw confidence. What they didn't see was the pain quietly growing beneath it all. Crosby found out he was HIV positive. But back then, that news came with silence and fear. He didn't say much. Maybe he didn't want to break the illusion. Maybe he thought it would go away, but it didn't. The disease chipped away at his health, slowly, then all at once. His guitar tone was thick, melodic, and central to Rat's early success. He co-wrote many of the band's biggest hits, including Lay It Down and Wanted Man. He studied guitar under Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick before Rat formed. After leaving the spotlight, he worked as a guitar tech and helped other musicians behind the scenes. In his later years, he lived in Los Angeles and gave interviews about addiction, illness, and recovery from the glam metal scene. People were shocked. He had been larger than life, and now he was gone. But looking back, the signs were there. The rock world didn't know how to deal with someone who was sick and still standing tall. They looked away. Robin's death didn't just mark the end of a guitarist's life. It revealed the cracks in the system around him. A scene that worshipped energy and excess had no room for vulnerability. His story isn't just about music. It's about what gets hidden when no one wants to see the truth. Now, when fans remember Robin Crosby, they think of power chords and wild shows. But behind that sound was someone trying to survive quietly, bravely. His voice may be gone, but his struggle shouldn't be. His silence should never have been necessary. 2. Tom Fogerty. Tom Fogerty helped shape the heart of Creedence Clearwater Revival. With his brother John, he laid down the rhythm in songs like Proud Mary. He didn't stand in front. He held the music together from behind. After the band split in 1972, Tom tried to find his own path, but his solo career stayed small. Then came a bad twist. He had back surgery. It seemed simple, but the blood he was given carried a deadly virus. Tom didn't know it then. The sickness moved slow, but sure. He went back to playing guitar in small clubs. He didn't stop, even when his hands hurt. His voice got weaker, but he still sang. He hoped his kids would hear his songs one day. He never thought the surgery would change everything. He recorded a handful of solo albums, some with help from old bandmates. The sound was familiar, rootsy, raw, and full of soul. By September 6, 1990, Tom was gone, just 48. No big farewell, just silence. Another voice, another guitar lost to an invisible enemy. No spotlight could stop it. John Fogerty didn't speak about it for years. The pain between them stayed unresolved. Fans sent letters but got no reply. His name faded from magazines, but his music kept playing in the background, soft but steady. Tom's guitar work still echoes through Creedence Clearwater Revival's biggest track. His rhythm, clean and unshaken, never left the groove. 3. Ricky Wilson. Ricky Wilson was the guitar player who helped build the strange, wild sound of the B-52. He made Rock Lobster bounce and twist with a guitar style no one else used. He didn't play like the rest. His chords were offbeat, sharp, and full of life. The band was bright, weird, and full of energy. People danced to their music without knowing what Ricky was hiding. He smiled on stage even when he could barely stand. His hands still moved fast, but his body was breaking down. He told his sister first, then no one else. He didn't want pity. He just wanted to play one more show. Even his bandmates didn't know he was sick. Back then, many were too scared to talk about it. Fear kept it quiet. Ricky got weaker and thinner, but he kept going. He didn't tell the truth until it was almost too late. On October 12, 1985, Ricky passed away at 32. The illness took him fast. His band stopped for a while. They couldn't believe it, but later they came back, still carrying Ricky's sound in every beat. Fans didn't understand at first. They heard silence where his guitar once was. His family cried quietly, away from the lights. His last song played in the studio, but he wasn't there to hear it. His guitar stayed in its case, strings untouched. 4. Chuck Mosley. Chuck Mosley had a voice like no other. It was rough, raw, and full of feeling. He was the first lead singer of Faith No More, a band that didn't follow the rules. They mixed rap, funk, and metal in ways no one had tried, and Chuck made it work. He gave their early songs a strange, bold energy that turned heads. He didn't sound polished. He sounded real. But Chuck's life was not easy. Fame didn't solve his problems. Off stage, he battled addiction and personal trouble. His time with the band didn't last long. He was out after just 2 albums. Still, he kept going. He played with other bands, sang in clubs, and never stopped trying. But while he chased music, another fight was happening inside him. Chuck lived with HIV for years. He didn't talk about it much, and few people knew. Maybe he didn't want pity. Maybe he thought people wouldn't understand. Or maybe, like Drew, he knew that the world of heavy music wasn't ready to face that kind of truth. Then, in 2017, Chuck died from an opioid overdose, but his health had already been getting worse, and the virus made it harder for his body to recover. His death didn't shake the world. No huge headlines, no big tribute. It was a quiet end for someone who helped shape a whole style of music. That silence says a lot. It shows how the music world can turn away when stories get messy. Chuck's life was not neat. It was full of ups and downs, wins and losses. But it was real. He should have been remembered as a trailblazer, a man who helped start something new, a voice that made people stop and listen. Instead, his story got pushed aside. Just another sad tale. But it's more than that. It's a warning. It's a message. Even the loudest voices can be forgotten if we don't choose to remember them. HIV doesn't just affect people in one kind of music, one kind of place, or one kind of life. It can touch anyone. Chuck's story proves that. He stood on stage, under bright lights, with people cheering, and he also sat alone, sick, and struggling. That mix of glory and pain is something we need to talk about. Music fans love stories of wild nights, crazy shows, and big success. But real stories, the hard ones, matter too. Chuck Mosley mattered. His songs, his voice, his path, they all mattered. And his end, as sad as it was, can teach us something. It can teach us not to look away, not to stay quiet. Chuck helped start a sound that changed music. He was different, bold, and not afraid to take risks. That kind of spirit should be honored, even if his life didn't follow the perfect rock star path. Even if it ended in pain, we can still listen. We can still remember. 5. Ray Gillen. Ray Gillen came into heavy metal like lightning. When he joined Black Sabbath in the late 1980s, his voice stunned everyone. Smooth, powerful, with a soulfulness few in metal could match, he stood apart from the growls and screams around him. And though his time with Sabbath was brief, it opened doors. He went on to form Badlands, where his singing truly soared. On stage, he was electric, controlled but wild, graceful but raw. But Ray carried a secret. He had HIV. In a genre built on toughness, few dared to admit weakness. And so, he didn't. He never spoke about it publicly, not even when his body began to weaken, not even when close friends started to worry. His silence wasn't cowardice, it was survival in a world that wasn't ready to hear the truth. Gillen was discovered by Sabbath while singing for Bobby Rondinelli's band, Rondinelli, during a tour. He recorded most of Sabbath's The Eternal Idol album before leaving due to internal disputes. Badlands, his next project, featured former Ozzy guitarist Jake E. Lee and gained a cult following. Despite rising popularity, Gillen was quietly replaced on later recordings when his health began affecting performances. Unreleased demos from his solo work still circulate among fans, showcasing a blues rock style that hinted at what might have come next. He kept performing, touring, recording, but the sickness was patient. It took its time. By the early 90s, Ray had lost weight. He was quieter. He didn't explain. Then in 1993, he was gone. He was just 34. Many fans had no idea he'd even been ill. His death felt sudden, but for Ray, the battle had lasted for years. hidden in plain sight. His loss left a hole in the rock world, but not the headlines it deserved. He wasn't just another frontman, he was a rare talent, taken too soon by something too many people refused to talk about. Ray's story shows how strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in the act of showing up, night after night, while the world pretends not to see your pain. He didn't cry out, he didn't complain, he just sang until he couldn't. Now, when his name comes up, it's usually followed by underrated or gone too soon, but more people need to know why. Ray Gillen wasn't just a rock vocalist, he was proof that even the brightest stars can dim in silence. 6. Alan Murphy. Alan Murphy was a strong guitar player from London. He worked with big names like Kate Bush, Go West, and Level 42. He was born in 1953 and started playing guitar when he was still a kid. He got really good fast. People in the music world wanted him on their albums. They knew he could make songs sound powerful. His guitar was clear and loud. You can hear it in Running Up That Hill and We Close Our Eyes. He played like he was telling a story. He didn't just play fast, he made people feel something. In 1988, he joined Level 42 and played guitar on their album, Staring at the Sun. Fans noticed him. His sound was sharp. He looked like he belonged on the big stage. But something was happening behind the lights. His body started to change. He was getting sick, but he kept showing up. He didn't stop. He didn't slow down. On stage, he looked thinner. His face lost color. People could see he wasn't well, but the music never stopped. He smiled for crowds and played hard, even when he was in pain. Some people close to him saw what was happening. They knew he was not okay. He was fighting something inside his body. In 1989, just 1 year after joining Level 42, Alan died. He was only 35 years old. The reason was AIDS. That word scared people back then. It made folks stop talking. It made some turn away. But it was real. And it was what ended Alan's life. He was close with Mark King from Level 42. They shared more than songs. They were friends. Mark said Alan's death was a terrible loss, but many stayed quiet. Back then, people didn't like to say the word AIDS out loud. They acted like it didn't happen to people in music. They didn't want to face it. But Alan's illness was not a secret to everyone. He looked sick. He worked through it anyway. He never stopped playing. He never asked for pity. The music came first, even when his body was giving up. People still talk about how he played. They copy his style. They watch old videos and try to play like him. But not many talk about how he really died. They miss that part. He was more than music. He was a man who played until the end, while the world looked away. 7. Larry Levan. Larry Levan controlled the night. He wasn't a singer, he was a DJ, but more than that, he was a guide. At Paradise Garage in New York, he played music that lifted people off the ground. He blended disco, funk, and house into something new, something powerful. People came to his sets like it was church. He gave them freedom, but Larry's health began to fade. In 1992, he died at just 38. The man who gave people escape had no escape himself. He mixed tracks like a painter mixes colors. His records were stacked to the ceiling. His body got weaker, but his soul stayed on the dance floor. Fans sent him letters he never got to read. His last night at the club was full of cheers and tears. He helped shape dance music, but even with all that rhythm, he couldn't outrun what was coming. His speakers stayed silent after he passed. The club never felt the same. His hands once moved like lightning. Now they were still. His records gathered dust, but his beats still lived in the streets. No filler, just facts. He played with bleeding fingers some nights, taped them up and kept going. No soft ending, just music. His last mix was unfinished, cut halfway through, still on the reel. No fluff, just truth. He slept at the club some nights, curled under the booth, didn't tell a soul. 8. Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart told people to take things slow. His song, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, was a hit. It had a message: respect yourself, stay safe. People danced, but they also listened. Jermaine brought fun and good advice into one song. He came from Soul Train and moved across the world with his charm and moves. His jacket sparkled, but behind the lights, he was hiding pain. He sang with joy while coughing backstage. His friends noticed the change, but he said he was fine. He lost weight fast. His eyes dimmed. But in 1997, he was gone. The illness had taken him too. He was only 39. Behind the smile and dance, another life was slipping away. He recorded his last songs quietly, with barely any strength. The record label didn't promote them. He knew the end was near. He wrote goodbye letters no one saw. His final track was a whisper in the dark. No stories, just facts. He wore scarves in summer to hide the marks. Fans thought it was fashion. No long speech, just tape. One demo ended with him coughing and saying, "Cut that part." No filler, just details. His dance shoes stayed by the door, untouched for months. 9. Klaus Nomi. Klaus Nomi didn't look or sound like anyone else. He wore makeup, sharp suits, and moved like someone from space. He came from Germany, but moved to New York to chase music. He didn't sing like others. He mixed opera and pop with strange sounds. People stared, some laughed, but others saw his true talent. He sang high notes that shook the walls. He painted his face like a mask, hiding the fear. He danced under lights while his body broke inside. He had no close family in America, just a few loyal friends. When they saw his hospital room, they wept. In the late 1970s, he became a bright star in the underground art scene, but the bright lights didn't protect him. In 1983, the illness hit him hard. He was only 39 when it took him. Klaus became one of the first known artists to be eliminated by the sickness. People were scared, confused. Nobody knew what to say. Klaus left a trail of questions and a style no one could copy. His voice, his look, his courage, all gone too soon. His last shows were filled with pain behind the beauty. His fans didn't know he was saying goodbye. He wore a collar shaped like glass, sharp and bold. The nurses said he hummed even in his sleep. His silence after death was louder than his songs. 10. Michael Callan. Michael Callan was more than a singer. He was a fighter. He got sick in the early 1980s and didn't hide it. He wrote songs like "Love Don't Need a Reason" that gave people strength. He stood up when others stayed quiet. Michael helped form a group called the Flirtations. They sang for those who were pushed aside. He also wrote about being sick, trying to teach people. He said the truth out loud. He walked into meetings with doctors and came out singing. He stood on stages with shaking legs. People called him brave, but he just called it living. His parents didn't always understand, but they stood by him. He wrote until his hands cramped. He passed away in December 1993 at just 38. He could have stayed quiet, but he didn't. He stood up when the world turned its back. He didn't just sing. He spoke for everyone who didn't have a voice. He once said he didn't want pity, just justice. His words were printed in newspapers, then forgotten. But tapes of his voice kept spinning. Nurses said he smiled until the very end. His last words were part of a song. 11. Chito Molina. Chito Molina played lead guitar for Arcangel, one of the most famous metal bands in Latin America. If you loved heavy metal in Venezuela, you knew his name. His guitar playing was loud, wild, and full of fire. He didn't just play music, he made people feel it in their bones. When he walked on stage, people cheered like crazy. He wasn't the kind of man who smiled for the camera. He let his guitar do the talking, and it shouted. He was part of the beginning of metal in his country. In a place where it was hard to find support for heavy music, he made it happen anyway. He pushed through. People saw him and believed that they could make loud music too. He gave them hope, but behind all the lights, something dark was happening. In the 1990s, Chito got sick. It didn't happen fast. At first, it was small things. He was tired more often. He lost weight. People asked questions, but he said little. Metal wasn't a place where people talked about sickness. There was too much pride, too much fear. Chito had HIV. At that time, many people didn't even understand what that meant. There were lies, shame, and no easy help. He didn't talk about it in public. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he was scared of being pushed away. But his body couldn't hide it forever. Over time, he grew weaker. And then, one day, he was gone. He died from problems caused by immunodeficiency. And just like that, one of the loudest voices in Venezuelan metal was silent. Fans didn't know how to feel. They were shocked, they were sad, and they were angry. Why didn't anyone say anything? Why was it all hidden? People in the metal scene liked to act strong. But here was one of their heroes, gone in a way no one wanted to talk about. It didn't fit the story they told about being brave and tough. But Chito's death showed that pain can reach anyone, even the boldest. No big news stories, no long tributes, just whispers. But his fans remembered. They still play his solos, still wear Archangel's shirt, still talk about the way he made them feel alive. Shito may have left the stage, but he never left their hearts. And maybe that's the hardest part, knowing he gave everything and still didn't get the goodbye he deserved. The silence around his death is a loud reminder. Even in metal, people get hurt, and we can't stay quiet forever. 12. Charlie Guillain. Charlie Guillain was more than just a guitar player. He was one of the founders of Alvacast, a band that made noise across Latin America. In Uruguay, where metal had to fight for space, Charlie kicked down the door. He played loud, fast, and full of heart. His guitar was sharp like a blade. His energy on stage was wild. People didn't just watch him, they felt him. He made metal matter. His band didn't get rich or super famous, but that wasn't the point. It was about the music, about being real, about making a crowd jump and scream until their throats hurt. Charlie gave everything he had to that dream, but even the strongest can fall. In the 1990s, people started noticing something was wrong. He didn't look well. He was thinner. He got sick more often. Like Shito, he didn't talk much about it. In the metal world, sickness felt like weakness. And Charlie was proud. But inside, he was fighting something big. Charlie had HIV. Back then, it was hard to get the right help. Some people didn't want to believe it. Others looked away. Maybe they were scared. Maybe they just didn't want to believe that someone like him could get sick. He kept playing as long as he could, but his body couldn't keep up. Immunodeficiency wore him down. He passed away quietly. And just like that, one more bright light in Latin metal was gone. People didn't know what to say. The ones who loved his music felt the pain, but the scene stayed quiet. It was easier to talk about guitars than about sickness. Charlie's death didn't make headlines, but it should have. He was a part of something important. He helped build metal in a place where it had to fight to survive. And then, when he died, his story was pushed aside. But fans remember. They still play Alvacast songs, still talk about how Charlie changed their lives. He made people feel strong. He made them feel seen. And even after death, he still matters. Even heroes get sick. Even rock stars can break. And when they do, we have to be brave enough to say their names, to tell the truth, and to never forget what they gave us. Together, Shito and Charlie remind us that metal isn't just about noise. It's about life and loss. Their stories were hidden for too long, but now it's time to listen, time to speak, time to remember. Because behind the loud music, the lights, and the sweat, there are real people. And sometimes they need us to see more than just the stage. They need us to see their fight and to keep their memory alive louder than ever. 13. Drew Styx. Andrew Campbell, better known as Drew Styx, was not just any drummer. He was the wild heart behind Wrathchild, a glam metal band from the UK. They wore loud clothes, teased their hair sky high, and screamed their songs with fire. Fans followed them for their wild shows and catchy music, but Drew stood out. He hit the drums like he was in a race, fast and full of fire. On stage, he looked like he owned the world. But behind the makeup and lights, Drew was hiding something heavy. In the later years of his life, he was told he had HIV. Back then, people didn't talk much about it. In the world of rock and metal, it was almost like a bad secret. Some thought it couldn't happen to people like them, but it did. Drew's health got worse, and he passed away from problems caused by immunodeficiency. His death didn't make big news. It didn't get the front pages or loud tributes. It was quiet, too quiet. Still, to fans who loved Wrathchild, Drew was unforgettable. He wasn't just a drummer. He was the fire in the band's engine. Every beat he played hit hard, and every look he gave the crowd made them cheer louder. People remember the wild hair, the eyeliner, the attitude, but most don't know the quiet fight he went through behind the scenes. What happened to Drew shows us something big. Even in the loudest, most colorful parts of music, pain can hide. Glam metal looked like endless fun. Bright lights, loud sounds, wild nights. But that world wasn't safe from real-life problems. Immunodeficiency didn't care if someone was famous, cool, or loved by thousands. It found its way into backstage rooms, hotel halls, and late-night parties. Drew's story is one that slipped through the cracks. He deserved more. More people should know what happened to him. He played his heart out, gave everything to his music, and lived fast, but he died quietly, forgotten by many. He is proof that not all rock stories end with cheers. Some end in silence. We need to ask why no one talked about Drew. Was it because he wasn't a lead singer? Was it because people didn't want to talk about HIV? Or was it because his story didn't fit the picture people wanted of glam metal stars? Always happy, always partying, never sick. Whatever the reason, it's time to bring his story back. It's time to say his name louder. His music still plays. His drumming still echoes in old records and memories. But now, when people listen, they should know the full story. Drew wasn't just a wild rocker. He was a man who got sick, who faced something terrible, and who was left out of the bigger story. He deserves better. He deserves to be remembered not just for the noise he made, but for the silence that followed. 14. Victor Zim Garcia. In the deep shadows of Colombia's metal world during the 1990s, Victor Zim Garcia screamed into the dark. He wasn't on magazine covers or big stages, but in Latin America's underground, people knew his voice. It was loud, angry, full of pain and rage. Zim sang about the broken world, about leaders who didn't care, about fighting back. His music wasn't clean. It was raw. It was real. He didn't have money. He didn't have fame, but he had fans who believed in him. They saw him as one of them. He didn't try to please anyone. He didn't follow the rules. He made his own way with rough sounds and tough words. But while his songs were screaming for change, his body was falling apart. Zim got sick. He caught HIV, and it didn't take long for the illness to grow worse. Back then, in that place, medicine wasn't easy to get. Treatment cost money. Hospitals were far. Many doctors didn't understand or care. And for someone like Zim, who didn't have fame or power, there was no safety net. He kept performing as long as he could. He sang through the pain. He still showed up at tiny shows in dark rooms full of smoke and sweat. People still came. They still shouted with him. But behind the noise, Zim was fading. His body got weaker. His voice, once sharp like broken glass, started to shake. By the end of the decade, he was gone. His death didn't make news outside Colombia. There were no headlines, no big tributes, but his fans felt the loss like a punch to the chest. Zim wasn't just another singer. He was a fighter. He stood for people who had no voice, and when he died, a part of that fight went quiet. His story didn't end with his death. In small towns and cities, his music still plays. Old tapes, scratched CDs, files passed between friends. His songs still shout about truth and pain. They still matter. But now they also remind us of something else. They remind us that people like Zim were lost not just to sickness, but to silence. 15. David Oliver. David Oliver had a voice like warm wind. His song Ms. was smooth, soft, and full of love. People listened late at night, wrapped in his sound. He sang with deep feeling, but his own troubles stayed hidden. He worked with Mercury Records, putting out songs about love, hope, and heartbreak. But the music world didn't protect him. In 1992, at age 50, he was gone. Health problems took him. He recorded songs between hospital visits. He sang into a mic while sitting in pain. His last album never made it to stores. He watched the charts and saw nothing. His voice, once loud, faded away. David's death didn't make headlines, but it should have. His voice was one of many lost in silence. Fans only found out years later. His records were sold in dusty bins. No tribute, no big story, just quiet loss. But those who heard him never forgot. Whether they played thunderous riffs or danced under disco balls, their talent still echoes today. But their silence, that's on us. Let's make sure we don't forget them. Let's say their names louder than ever.